a shamanic tradition, a shaman mystic tradition. And he could tell that through the similarities of their poetic works and other aspects. We didn't know that. What is so important is for us to know finally that the Western world was rooted in a shaman mystic, and in the case with Egypt, scientific, and with the pre-Socratics, they were also scientific. So these are the roots of Western consciousness, deeply, deeply rooted in knowing how to trigger that valve to experience higher consciousness and knowing how to have a balanced life, a deep spiritual experience of it. But we know from the Judaic culture, First Temple, that it was suppressed and repressed by the Deuteronomists. And the Second Temple would have nothing to do with that tradition. But there were mystics. They knew that was nonsense. And so they formed groups themselves. For instance, the Essenes were known as a group that knew how to do that. They knew how to release that valve. Many ways of experiencing the sacred in themselves and in the land, in the universe. And so probably Jesus was born in the Essenes. He could very well have been part of one of these organizations, which were very much alive at that time. As Margaret Barker says, it was a renaissance of the First Temple tradition. Jesus was a mystic, a shaman mystic. But the church, however, inverted that. And they said, no, Jesus is God, and that you must worship him and follow him. So again, it takes it outside of us so that we can't experience anything. We have to believe it. So that was, again, a false myth. And I've thought for many years it didn't really matter whether Jesus actually was historical or not. Someone had that consciousness. Could be any one of the Essenes or Therapeutae. But I think there's more and more evidence now that Jesus was historical and that he was married to Mary Magdalena. But once again, the church got rid of her and she was made to be a whore so that there could be no feminine here. But we can see that the masculine symbolizes the left brain and the right symbolizes the feminine with the connection to higher brain centers in the heart. And always there must be the sacred marriage of the two for our wholeness. So when we see religions with just one of them, then we know that something's wrong. Because we all know that the church canon, the Bible, was a selection of texts that were used in early Christianity. They were selection by the church. And of course, they left out things, they added things, and they completely refused to have texts that revealed Jesus to be a mystic. We did not even know that until after World War II. The Nag Hammadi texts were found in Upper Egypt because the monks who were there in early Christianity, they were told that they either had to destroy those texts or the church would come back and destroy them for the monks. So the monks dutifully did not destroy them, but buried them. And it is in those texts that we see a very different Jesus. And Jesus says, I did not come to save you. I came to remind you of who you are. And that, of course, would have been what we would have known had we been able to eat of the tree of life. That is, be initiated into that vastness of who we are. That's been wiped out. So Jesus, though, had said at the time, if you bring forth what is within you will save you. But if you do not bring forth what is within you will destroy you. And that's so beautiful because it's a mystic telling us we all have everything within us that we need to experience who we are. And he said, I am not your master. When you drink from my lips, you and I are one. And the other quotation, which is so important, is that it is not enough to follow the Christ. You must become the Christ to achieve Christ or cosmic consciousness. That's what he wanted us to remember, because the myths had been inverted, destroyed. We were lied to for centuries about who we are. No wonder we have the feeling we're nothing. So once the church took over, you could not even have books that had anything to do with such a tradition. Those traditions were forbidden, temples were destroyed, and anyone who even could utter something other than what the church said could be destroyed. It was a violent, suppressive culture for 700 years. And it wasn't until about 1000 that everything that had been suppressed by the church just broke loose and blossomed in Europe. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, says that every change like that begins with a dream. And it did. I think that within us there were the dreams, the visions of something more, the looking for something more. And so from about 1000 to 1300, there was an incredible blossoming of mystics, the Cistercian monks and nuns, the Beguine women who were independent women, many of them were mystics, and there was the building of cathedrals. There were